Darkness faded into a blinding light as I felt a sharp, throbbing pain in my chest. I looked down to see the dusty floor of a stable instead of the hospital bed I remembered. Suddenly, a translucent blue window flickered into existence right before my eyes. The screen displayed my new name, Rain Kalin, and a profession titled Apprentice Blacksmith. I realized I had been reincarnated into the body of a scrawny boy in a world that felt far too real. A gruff voice boomed from the entrance, demanding that I get to work immediately. My first task was to trim the hooves of a particularly foul-tempered donkey. As I reached for the animal's leg, a new notification pinged in my mind. The system identified this as a maintenance quest with potential rewards for success. The donkey suddenly kicked back, barely missing my head with its heavy hoof. I gritted my teeth and realized that in this world, even chores were a battle for survival. I watched the animal's rhythm, waiting for the perfect moment to strike with my tool. I spent the next 3 hours wrestling with the beast, sweat pouring down my face. With one final scrape, the system chimed loudly to signal the completion of the task. A surge of heat flowed through my veins as my strength and dexterity stats increased by 1 point. I could feel my body becoming slightly more responsive, less like the weak shell I woke up in. If manual labor could grant me power, I would become the hardest worker this manor had ever seen. Suddenly, a thunderous sound of galloping hooves echoed from the main courtyard. I peered through the gaps in the wood to see a line of knights clad in gleaming silver plate armor. The air around them seemed to vibrate with an overwhelming pressure I couldn't explain. My system identified the lead knight as a level 45 ironclad guardian. I looked at my own level 1 status and felt a deep, gnawing sense of insignificance. The stable master returned and kicked a bucket of water toward me, ordering me to clean the smithy next. I didn't complain, knowing that every swing of a broom was a step toward leveling up. Inside the smithy, the smell of hot iron and coal smoke filled my lungs. I saw an anvil that pulsed with a faint magical resonance according to my system's vision. If I could just touch the tools of the trade, maybe I could unlock the true potential of my profession. The mastersmith, a mountain of a man with a scarred face, stepped out from the shadows. He glared at me, his eyes full of suspicion and disdain for a lowly servant boy. I lowered my head and continued my cleaning, trying to remain as invisible as possible. A notification popped up. Environmental awareness increased. Perception +1. I realized that every single action I took was being tracked and quantified by the system. As night fell, I was led to a cramped room shared with several other orphans. The sound of quiet sobbing from the younger children echoed against the stone walls. I looked at my small hands and swore that I would use this system to protect them and myself. A sudden, muffled scream came from the courtyard below, followed by the clashing of steel. Dark figures were moving through the shadows, dragging several children toward the gate. The system flashed a bright red warning. Emergency quest, the Child Snatchers. I was only level 1, but the sight of the crying children made my blood boil with rage. As I prepared to leap out, a cold hand suddenly grabbed my shoulder from behind. A voice whispered in my ear, warning me that if I left this room, my life would never be the same again. I turned slowly, only to find the room completely empty, yet the sensation of the grip remained.
Was it a ghost or a hidden function of the system trying to guide my path?
Regardless of the danger, I couldn't let those children be taken into the night. Just then, a massive explosion of silver light erupted from the courtyard, followed by a scream that didn't sound human. The silver explosion in the courtyard settled, revealing a charred training dummy and the terrifying silhouette of a knight. Rain realized then that hoof trimming would never be enough to survive in a world where humans could shatter stone with a swing. He spent the next 3 months working double shifts in the manor's forge to unlock the blacksmith profession. Every strike of the hammer sent jolts of pain through his underdeveloped shoulders, but he refused to stop. A familiar blue notification finally flickered into existence before his eyes, signaling a breakthrough. The screen read that his strength and stamina had increased by 2 points each due to his relentless labor. While cleaning the soot from his face, he noticed a young woman watching him from the balcony above. It was Lady Kreia, the Count's daughter, whose reputation for martial genius was known even to the lowest servants. She descended the stairs with a grace that made her seem like she was floating above the muddy ground. "You strike the iron with more intent than a mere servant," she noted, her voice as cold as winter wind. Rain kept his gaze low, wondering if his secret system was somehow visible to her keen eyes. She tossed him a wooden practice sword, which he barely caught before it hit his chest. "Show me the strength you've been building at the anvil," she commanded, drawing her own wooden blade. Rain took a stance, and immediately the system flashed a new notification: "Basic swordsmanship skill discovered." He lunged forward, but Kreia parried his strike with such ease, it felt like he had hit a stone wall. The counterattack was a blur, and the wooden blade thwacked hard against Rain's ribs, knocking the wind out of him. "Your body is strong, but you do not know how to breathe," she said, looking down at his gasping form. Rain looked up, wondering if breathing was truly a skill that could be leveled up in this world. She placed a hand on his back and told him to visualize the air moving like liquid mercury through his veins. As he followed her guidance, a faint silver mist began to leak from his pores, shimmering in the twilight. The system screen went wild, scrolling through dozens of alerts at a speed he couldn't follow. Detected hidden stat, mana circuit, the system announced in a bold golden font. Kreia's eyes widened slightly as she felt the raw potential radiating from the scrawny apprentice. She realized that this boy could be the secret weapon the Count needed to counter the rising noble factions. "From now on, you will report to my personal training grounds every night after your forge work is done," she declared. Rain could barely nod, his body feeling both lighter than air and heavier than lead from the mana awakening. He knew this was his chance to rise above the life of a disposable servant. Over the next few weeks, his life became a grueling cycle of fire, iron, and silver breath. His blacksmithing level reached 15, allowing him to craft a fine steel dagger for himself in secret. During one night session, Lady Kreia's training became far more intense than usual. Rain had to use every bit of his silver breath technique just to keep track of her movements. Suddenly, he managed to deflect a strike that should have been impossible for a trainee to catch. "Your progress is frightening," she whispered, lowering her guard for a brief moment. She then warned him that a group of merchants had been disappearing on the roads near the manor. Rain thought of his younger siblings back in the village and felt a cold knot of dread in his stomach. He requested permission to join the night watch, using his new skills to protect his people. She handed him a dark cloak and a badge of the manor's guard, marking his official promotion. But as he stepped out into the night for his first patrol, he noticed the horses in the stable were screaming in terror. A foul stench of rotting fish and swamp water filled the air, despite the manor being miles from any coast. From the shadows of the outer wall, a webbed hand with long, jagged claws reached out to grab a sleeping guard. Just as Rain opened his mouth to scream a warning, a massive, gurgling roar echoed from the woods, and the manor's main bell began to toll in a panicked rhythm. The frantic ringing of the manor bell sliced through the night air like a jagged blade. Rain gripped his training sword and sprinted toward the tree line where the sound of the roar originated. A translucent blue screen flickered into existence before his eyes, announcing a new urgent quest. He saw several hooded figures dragging heavy sacks toward a hidden river path. The muffled cries coming from the sacks confirmed his worst fears about the child kidnapping ring. Without waiting for the knights, Rain leaped from the bushes and intercepted the first kidnapper. He activated his breathing technique, feeling a surge of cold energy flow into his limbs. His blade moved in a silver arc, shearing through the kidnapper's rusted armor with ease. Suddenly, the ground began to tremble as the massive mutant null burst from the undergrowth. The remaining kidnappers screamed as the beast swiped them aside like annoying insects. Rain stood his ground, his eyes darting to the health bar appearing above the monster's head. He realized his physical strength was insufficient, so he targeted the monster's glowing joints. The null lunged forward, grazing Rain's shoulder and sending him tumbling through the dirt. Gritting his teeth, Rain pushed himself up, ignoring the blood soaking his tunic. He poured all his remaining stamina into a final, desperate execution strike. The blade buried itself deep into the creature's core, and a blinding light consumed the clearing. As the monster collapsed, Rain received a notification that his level had spiked dramatically. He didn't have time to rest as the sound of webbed feet splashing in the river signaled a new threat. A tribe of fishmen, eyes glowing yellow, emerged to claim the kidnapped children for themselves. Rain dragged the sacks with the children behind a large rock to shield them from the arrows. He used his blacksmithing knowledge to quickly ignite a nearby barrel of pitch with a spark from his blade. The resulting explosion scattered the fishmen and illuminated the entire riverbank. Rain danced through the smoke, his movements now fluid and veteran-like. One by one, the fishmen fell to his precise strikes, their scales no match for his leveled-up strength. The remaining monsters retreated into the depths of the water, fearing the boy who fought like a demon. Kreia and the Manor Knights finally arrived, gasping at the carnage Rain had left behind. Kreia dismounted and looked at Rain with a newfound respect in her eyes. "You're no longer a trainee," she declared, handing him a silver badge of the Night Watch. The rescued children were reunited with their weeping families back at the manor gates. Rain watched the sunrise, feeling the weight of his responsibilities settle comfortably on his shoulders. He thought about the donkey that had sent him here and realized he finally belonged in this world. His system panel showed a new title, Protector of the Realm. His little sister ran up to him, throwing her arms around his waist in a tight hug. Rain ruffled her hair, promising that no monster would ever take her away. The Count himself appeared on the balcony, nodding down at the boy who had saved his people. Rain knew that while the world was dangerous, he now had the tools to shape his own destiny. He sheathed his sword, the metallic click signaling the end of his time as a victim. The village bells rang out again, but this time they sang a song of celebration and safety. The system interface slowly faded away, its purpose of guiding his growth successfully fulfilled. Rain walked toward his home, ready to live the life he had fought so hard to earn.